Hey everybody, quick note on today's podcast. We are doing a combination of our work hard and play hard segments. Typically, we do a audio-only work hard segment, that's all business, and then a video section called Play Hard, where we show you kind of who we are and let you get to know us. But because our field services crew is able to join us for both sections, we're going to combine them both, and that means that you can watch the entire thing on our YouTube channel, which if you're there now, you obviously know. But those of you listening to us out there on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, make a little mental note to check us out on YouTube as well. All right, everybody. See you later. Everybody, welcome to HRP's 312 podcast. This episode is going to be cold weather war stories with our field services crew, our intrepid field services staff. We have with us Chris Labby, who is the head of field services, the manager for the whole company on field services, one of our longest serving HRP employees. Next, we have Keith Gandarillis, again, one of our most dependable and senior and expert field services staff people here. And last but not least, we have Nathan Pisani, one of our newest additions, but also one of the best to HRP Associates.
Thank you.
Absolutely. How are you guys doing?
We're doing good.
Good?
Yeah.
Can't complain. Excellent. And what are we drinking today?
Miller Lite.
So is the champagne of beers?
It's a classic. Classic working man's beer, I'd say.
Just a good old twisted.
So, Tweez over here. All right. I've got a Connecticut favorite.
Oh, cold weather.
Yep. Okay.
Would you shake it up?
No,
Can you run and grab some paper towels?
this was not the one that we expected.
This is what happens
That's
when you
okay.
get the field service in front of the
I'm-
mic.
I can't wait to see what happens here.
It's cold and wintry out
Yes,
there,
yeah.
so maybe that was it.
It's not the worst thing that's spilled in here.
Still tastes good, though.
Yeah. Bob was in here and he knocked over his coffee and
Oh, there you go.
yeah, that laid that left a mark.
It'll be a nice aroma in the studio now, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. That's what's gonna happen. We'll go with that.
Until it sours.
I'm gonna have another sip then. This will be the last time I'm invited back into the studio.
Yeah. Way to make your drinking problem ours.
Everybody else open?
Nate, leave that here for me because when I crack this, I am very worried that we're gonna get the same. I'm actually going to just make a little mat for myself here for when this explodes as well.
There you go.
You just got to be ready. Take a quick sip.
Outtakes here.
Okay.
Yeah, there's your outtake reel.
So as I was saying, we're all framed up over there?
Yeah.
Perfect. As I was saying, Headway Counter IPA, a classic for Connecticut. This one was way in the back of the fridge, frozen to the back, in fact. So we're going to see what happens here if we have a repeat of the Stella incident. About to have our own cold weather war story live.
Professional.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's good stuff.
Quick
It's definitely
to the gullet.
Definitely a slushy, but hey, it still tastes good. So we're going to open up this segment by talking about the individually, like what memories do you have of when you were the coldest on the job, when you were out there? Because here in the Northeast where we're based, part of what the folks have to deal with is the cold weather. They're out there hours at a time, day after day, dealing with that, getting the job done in pretty adverse conditions and in really unique positions because of the work that we do. So, Chris, you are the most senior and experienced individual on the podcast
Probably
today.
could go on with 32 winters of many stories, but the story where I remember being really cold and putting a big physical effort in was out in the northwest corner of Connecticut. It was back in 2011, back when we got a lot of snow. I do remember in some spots in the woods there was 4 feet of snow, which is pretty unusual, obviously, for Connecticut being so close to the shoreline. But this is in the northwest corner, up by the corner of New York State and Massachusetts. So surveying job, we have to go in with snowshoes on. We have sleds. On the sleds, we have all our tripods, all the survey equipment. We still have machetes for cutting through some of the brush where we need to get line of sight. So we're trudging in, and this is a week-long job. So each day we got to repack out, repack in. You get to setting up our new station, you got to dig down to the ground to set the tripod in. And I just remember just trudging out through the snow and digging and getting through the woods and setting up and all. Yeah, I mean, it was really windy. It was really cold. Yeah, you're being physical and you're moving, but it was bitter cold. It was a true winter that winter. So So, that was a challenging project we had,
Yeah. All right, Keith, similar question. Like, what comes to mind when you think of when were you the coldest on the job?
Coldest was probably a site in Southington that comes to mind. It was down into the woods, like Chris said. It was a decent amount of snow that year. Trudging into the woods with all our equipment, we were doing some low flow sampling. Had these wells that were down in the woods. They were clustered wells, 1-inch wells. Yeah. And we had to use these small diameter bladder pumps. And they only pump less than 100 mils a minute at max. And the water's coming out so slow, the water lines were freezing in between our readings and everything. So it was so cold, we had to take hand warmers and tape it to our tubing coming out of the well to keep water not from freezing. That was a cold day. And it was, like I said, another week-long project easily, and then just dealing with those things and trying to decon them, the pumps in between your wells and pull them out. So then that's trying to keep your decon water from freezing. Water gets all over your hands and your gloves. And
for people out there that don't know what low flow sampling is, can you kind of paint a picture of what that looks like, what that involves?
You usually have a pump either at grade or submersible into the well to pump water up to the grade, and you pump the well at a low volume, low flow rate, and you take continuous readings every 3-5 minutes, whatever your state requires.
So where are you in this picture? Like physically, what does that look like for you?
What does it look like for me?
Yeah. If someone were to walk by and see you doing this, what would they say?
Everyone would ask you catch anything today? Because they always think you're ice fishing.
Ice fishing.
Every time. Yeah. You catch anything? You're like, yeah, funny. But that was a cold day. That was one of the ones that kind of sticks out in mind. I usually try to erase those.
Yeah.
And just think about warm weather.
And Nathan, how about yourself?
Well, I mean, I was kind of, before I worked at HRP, I did snow removal, and I did snow plowing and snow shoveling. So it was probably one of the 2-foot storms we had. I think it was like 2 years ago. And it wasn't that it snowed. It wasn't that it was that cold. It was just I ended up spending, I think, 14, 15 hours outside shoveling snow because it was so windy and the drifts just kept piling up and up and up. I kept going back and I kept shoveling it out. So I was frozen, soaking wet. It was overall just a not very pleasant time. So I'm happy to be working here. So, yeah.
Yeah. The coldest I've ever been wasn't on the job at HRP, but it was when my dad took me on a caving trip. So it was in the middle of winter, and for fun, we were going to map this cave system. So we were doing surveying. I was about probably 12 years old, and like that's where we're going to go underground to survey.
You're the smallest, Tom.
Yeah,
Get in there.
Exactly. You can get that angle and hold it right, and like call it the level and all that. But it was February, and we came out of the cave. And if you've ever gone caving, inside it's kind of its own ecosystem. It maintains like a constant temperature of 50 degrees no matter what time of year it is. So it's all wet and, puddles and little streams and everything in there. But as soon as you come out, you're back in the sub-zero freezing temperatures. So you get out and all of that moisture instantly freezes. The boots are just frozen solid. You can't untie them. One, because your fingers are so numb and there's so little sensation in them that like you can't even do like the fine motor control needed for that. But then also like the laces and everything are frozen solid too. So I had to be cut out of the boots and get a different pair of shoes and like run down the mountain back to where we're parked to start getting warmed up.
I think the worst weather, though, is when it's just above freezing and raining. So
Yes.
it's like 34
like right
degrees,
now.
34, 35 and rain. That's the worst. Because snow, it just kind of falls off you. The rain, it soaks in, and then you just get to the core.
At least the snow looks nice.
Yeah, it's a classic saying. I'd rather work in the 20s and snowing than 30 and 40s and raining. That's for sure.
Definitely.
Any day.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So can you guys recall any instances like what does it feel like viscerally to be out in that cold?
I don't know. I mean, it's mentally challenging. I mean, it's good to move. That's what we always say.
Yes.
And a low flow, it's changed over from the days of bailing when you were moving and bailing water physically out. Now you're kind of taking field parameter readings, and there's more science behind it, and it's definitely a more correct way to sample. But you don't move as much, so you definitely want to keep on moving as much as you can. So that's helpful. So,
is low flow the worst kind of work you guys have to do in the cold?
Yeah, because you're not moving much.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, any kind of like, manually collecting soil samples, you're moving more. Surveying, you're moving more. Yeah.
Sometimes I just sit there and close my eyes and just try to feel the warmth of the sun and be like,
Oh, that's what you're doing when I walk by and I see your eyes closed. Okay.
I'm not taking a nap.
When do you guys usually have to start the job or be on the job for a low flow when it's in the winter?
It depends on the project and what it's budgeted for and how much time we have and what the weather the rest of the week looks like. And sometimes we'll be out there when the sun comes up. Other times we'll give it a little bit of time to warm up.
If there's not as much project work, not as many wells,
Especially with snowing the day of, or overnight, you want to make sure the roads get clear because otherwise you go out when it's snow on the roads, it's accidents everywhere and it's not even worth going to a site because you spend 3 hours sitting in traffic.
Yeah.
Which is always fun.
And a lot of our projects, we're bringing out metal detectors in the winter time, to kind of locate all the wells, and then you're shoveling down. And sometimes, a lot of the clients have to push the snow to the side of their property. Well, that's sometimes where some of the wells are located. So now you're finding them with a metal detector and digging down 8 feet from the top.
10 feet, you're digging.
It's like an igloo without a top.
Yeah.
And it's safe to climb into because it's so interlaid and iced and packed up. But I mean, we've had some pictures where you look down in a little snow hole and there's Keith, sampling a well. It's quite a neat picture to see. So the effort, I would tell you, sampling in warm weather is so much easier, obviously, than sampling in the wintertime. But some of us do love snow, though, so I don't want to poo-poo the winter.
Nah. Is the physical experience of the cold the worst part about working in it, or is it the frustrations like the well's buried under snow and we got to locate that? For each of you guys, what do you think is the part you least enjoy about it? Chris, what would you say?
I'd say just because I work hard and play hard outside my whole life, so my hands have taken a beating. So it's actually a pain, a little bit of physical pain, and where your finger, like I said, you're documenting everything that you do in the field, which is what you want to do anyways. But your fingers just are really cold. You can't really bulk up in between wells when you're moving equipment. You can bulk up on gloves and wear mittens and all that is what I do to try to have a little tricks and have the heating pads inside the mittens, have a nice little warm spot. But that's the thing that bothers me most. Is it's there's a little mental toll on it, but it's the cold fingers is the most challenging part. So
I'm the other. Mine's more mental.
Yeah.
Like it's just the short daylight time. And then if it snows, you got to clear out your house and you come to the office here and we got to clear off our vehicles and we go to a site and we got to find all and dig through the snows that are site and clear off the wells and everything. So it's just like it's just so much harder and takes so much more time.
I'd say definitely physical. You're just never comfortable.
Yeah.
Nothing you do, even if you layer up, you forget, you're going to be cold. If it's at cold enough or if it's raining or something, you're not going to be warm. It doesn't matter what you do.
Keith, for you, how much of a frustration is the snow accumulation on the roof of the building here?
Oh, when it hangs over our back where our back stairs, our loading dock is, it overhangs 3, 4, 5 feet, and it's going to kill somebody one of these days. And then the cleaning crew that does our property, they don't do our vehicles or anything. They never do our ramp or anything. So I'm always the first one in. I'm trudging through snow just to get into the building and unalarm the building. Yeah. And I'm always like, snow crew every time. And I text Bubba, they didn't clear this yet.
Yes, we have a dedication to safety that expands beyond just the job site and includes the workplace here as well. What kinds of unique things do you guys have to do in the cold weather that you don't necessarily have to do in the hot weather? I'm thinking about stuff like maybe dragging equipment around on a sledge or the way you access sites with vehicles now versus before. Like, what are some of the challenges you guys see there?
Like you said, yes, a lot of times you got to put a sled and you look like you're in the tundra with a pulling a sled behind with all your equipment. And
another thing that comes to mind, even for budgetary purposes, sometimes you got to bring more than you can't go in one vehicle. Each person's got to have their own vehicle. Easier to get equipment to the locations of your sampling sites on the property, and also just a source of heat, obviously. So that's challenging. You pointed out you got to dress in layers. Obviously, that's pretty common sense over the summertime. But there's definitely those challenges there that you have to really be prepared to handle the cold. Obviously, having plenty of people think you drink water in the summer only. No, you need to stay super hydrated in the winter, especially if you're shoveling snow, looking for wells and all that. It's drier weather, so you definitely get dehydrated that much quicker. So. Definitely got to keep up on fluids.
Also got to make sure the truck or car is filled up with gas. A lot of times, some HRP employees, leave a half tank or less than a half tank. But especially in the cold weather, you really got to make sure you're topped up, because if you're out there for 8 hours and your truck's really your only source of warmth, you don't want to turn it off on you.
Yeah. Have you guys ever gotten stranded on a job in the cold weather?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a one site, it was a landfill, and we drove in. It was on the backside of the landfill. And we came in the morning, and the ground was all frozen. And it had a little bit of snow, so I drive all the way in the back doing some work around the back of the landfill. And midday, I start to go about, and it all thawed out, and the truck kind of just sunk and got stuck in there.
Yeah.
And we couldn't get it out. We had another truck we're trying to pull it out with. And at that time it was late in the day, and the people at the landfill didn't know we were still there, and they locked us inside the landfill.
Did you get out?
I got a call.
Undisclosed.
I mean, honestly, sometimes I feel like the snow for carrying equipment probably makes it a little easier. A sled gets over everything. You know, if you're trudging in the woods. I mean, if it's say you got like 3 or 4 inches of snow, so you can walk pretty easy, but you got your stuff in a sled, glides right along.
And we had that just came up to my when you said that. We were out, I don't remember Weathersfield or whatever, and we were sampling way back in the field. So Chris is over here, and I'm way back in the field again with the sled, and I'm pulling. I got my samples, and I have them on my sled, and I'm bringing them back to the truck to go put in the cooler. And I got the sled I'm towing, and I get all the way across the field. And this was it was a big field.
Oh, it's
Chris looks at me, I'm a little person way over there.
Yeah.
I make it all the way out to the parking lot, and the sled tips over, and my amber jars of my sample fell out, boom, and broke. Gotta load it all back up, go all the way back in again.
Collect another sample. Yeah. Yep.
It was that look of like,
I remember that. That was a trudge. Yep. I think a lot of times, sometimes we have the flame pro we got to bring out, which is a canister of gas, and because sometimes you'll dig down to a well and it's still iced over.
Yeah.
And you try with a hammer and screwdriver to chisel around the nuts to open it up, but you can't get it. So then you break out that and you have to melt it.
Yes.
So
yeah.
So there, like I said, there's tricks and challenges to getting access to even start your day sampling. So
yeah. So for those out there who don't know, the recharge rate is the rate at which a well fills back up with water once the water's been taken out. Is that accurate?
Yep.
Okay. I would think that surely when in the winter, when the ground's frozen, maybe the groundwater doesn't move as much as it does before. Does that affect the recharge rate? Or once you get deep enough into the ground, is it not even a factor anymore?
Doesn't really factor. In Connecticut, the frost layer is maybe 4 feet at the most.
Gotcha.
Most of the water in Connecticut is below that, so it's not really affected by any. Surface water is a different story. But
okay. Typically, like how deep do you go for groundwater when you're sampling?
Connecticut, to the water, it varies from less than a foot to 40, 50, 60 feet in Connecticut.
Yeah.
Our groundwater table is fairly shallow, not like places in New York, Long Island, it's 100, 200 feet to water.
Yeah.
Which you wouldn't think in Long Island, a little tiny island, skinny, you wouldn't think it'd be 200 feet to reach water. But
yeah, it's like mostly sand out there too, right? Yeah. So for each of you guys, what are your personal feelings about the cold? Do you like cold weather? Do you hate it? Are you indifferent to it? Chris, I feel like you are maybe the only person here who might actually like the cold.
Yeah. I love the cooler weather. I just think better, more clearly. I just feel more physical. I can put more of a physical effort in. I could work harder, play harder. My favorite thing to do, as you know, is cross-country skiing. So
they are.
I need snow for that. So, yeah, just like this morning when I woke up and the snow was flying in the ground, flying in the sky, I was like a little kid. I was just, to me, it's magical. I just get excited all the time when it snows and look forward to getting out and playing in it and I guess working in it with you guys too. So, but I do love the wintertime. Do love it just so quiet out in the woods and peaceful and less people around, less traffic. It's just a kind of a zen time. I can really enjoy it. So,
Nathan, how about yourself?
I love it.
Yeah.
I love the cold. I love the winter.
Cool.
I like being able to bundle up, putting layers on, getting dressed. I like hiking a lot. So when I get to hike in the snow, it's harder, but I just think it's way nicer.
Yeah.
And overall, I don't really ski or snowboard, but it doesn't matter. Anytime it snows, I'm happy. That's usually what it is.
Yeah.
Snowing and I'm happy.
Where do you usually go hiking in the winter, the weather?
Well, where I'm from Cheshire, so I used to do a lot in the Sleeping Giant area. Those have great trails. I've been kind of exploring up now more in northern Connecticut and like Bear Mountain, which is a little harder to do in the wintertime. You got to make sure you have ice, spikes on your shoes because one side of it is just pure rock, but
yeah, I love hiking up there, and I went up there a couple years ago in the winter with micro spikes on. You absolutely have to.
But they work, and it's a great view when you get to the top of a mountain, and
for sure
everything's white. Everything looks peaceful and nice. If you can get out there before the plow trucks have come through too, it's all nice and clean. Unlike 2 days later and it all just
Brown.
looks brown and it's dirty, and it's kind of depressing that 3 days after a snowstorm.
Got to get Keith out there with you next time.
Yeah, Keith, how do you feel about cold weather?
Not a fan.
Not a fan.
Yeah. No, just it's not my thing. I leave it to Chris. He always comes in, I want more snow. I said, keep it at your house.
I'll take it.
Yeah. I much prefer like spring and fall.
Yeah.
Winter's just depressing.
Yeah. You're a motorsports guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you like to do?
Motorcycles, dirt bikes.
Yeah.
Snowmobiles are too expensive.
Yeah. Okay. Have you tried them before?
Yeah, snowmobiles, skiing, snowboarding. It was fun until I started working outside every single day, and that kind of just ruined all that stuff for me at that point. And now I'm like, nope.
It's not that your knees don't really work anymore.
Well, that could be part of it too.
Do you ride your dirt bike in the winter?
I used to.
Yep.
You can? I didn't like how much snow can be on the ground. You can ride that.
It depends if the ground's frozen underneath it or not, and if you have spikes on your tires.
I didn't know that.
But yeah. Or if the snowmobiles came down and packed down the trails, then it just like.
What's your viewpoint on the winter over there, sir?
Similar to you, love snow. I think it's fantastic. I wish we could just go straight from summer into winter, just skip fall entirely. Give me like 2 weeks of fall colors, but after that, I need snow. So for you guys, what do you do in the winter to kind of keep that seasonal depression at bay?
Work. No, I don't know. Keep your mind off it.
That's all Keith's going to say is work.
I mean, being physical, like I said, if there's no snow on the ground, I'm doing what Nate's doing. I'm out hiking or even just going for a walk every day or night in town type thing. Movement helps a lot. Now, the way I look at it too, you have shorter light hours, so I like to do stuff inside that I don't when I'm outside in the summer to 9 o'clock sometimes.
Painting?
Painting projects always come up. More like domestic painting of a house and all that.
Not doing murals.
But things like just stretching, things strengthening, stretching, yoga stretches, listening to music, more just inside stuff that I don't slow down in the summertime to do, per se, just because I'm out more longer light hours. So just more in
all those honey-do lists, right?
Yeah, well, there's plenty of those.
They get stacked up until the wintertime, and I do them all.
Nathan, how about yourself?
Well, my roommates and I recently doing a lot of board games. That's what we like to do. Once it gets colder out, it's kind of board game season. We've got too many that take way too long to play. So we'll start them on like the weekend and just kind of play throughout that. Fixing stuff. Usually things break, so usually tinkering away, fixing things, and usually just keeping the fire going. That's what I like. Another little fire pit in the house. So either splitting firewood and keeping it stocked because makes the house feel more like a home.
So board game wise, what's a favorite and what's one that you could pass on?
Oh my God, what's it called? See, the problem is I'm not the one who picks the games. Yeah, we have a dedicated friend who goes out and buys the games, so I'm just there. But there was this one pretty fun. It was like I think it was like an alien isolation game. It was the character models really in depth and they were kind of massive, but you're like astronauts and you're trying to escape and you got a mission. You got like your own secret mission you got to do. And we played it for the first time and it was surprisingly really fun because a lot of times we play a game and if one person knows the rules, he's trying to explain it to all of us. One of my roommates definitely has a short attention span, so it's kind of hard to get him to focus up. But yeah, just things like that. That or Mario Party for the Wii.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
it's a Mario Party.
We play
sure.
that.
Yeah. Keith, how about you? What are you doing? You can't say work.
No,
you got it. This guy
working at the house, working stuff on the house. Yeah,
just going home and working.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep. That or just sit on the couch and just veg out. Try to think of the warning. Yeah, exactly.
For me, breweries are a big stopping point. I love to see what we got because in Connecticut we've got tons of great ones here. So exploring those, definitely a great wintertime hobby for sure. All right, Chris, you have brought in. This could be treacherous here.
Yeah, we're gonna try
move some stuff out of the way.
Beer here.
Try to retrieve the skis.
These came out with the snow this morning.
Yep.
There was quite enough to do it, Keith. You want one?
No, he said he had a surprise for me. And he'd go out to the truck. I thought he was grabbing the elf on the shelf because I hate that thing. He comes in with the skis. I'm like, oh, it's better than the elf on the shelf.
And I was saying earlier, our Elf on the Shelf video that we did a few years ago, for whatever reason, it's in the suggested videos on YouTube. It's just like taking off now for us.
Is it?
Yes.
Because we say we have to show Nate that because he hasn't seen it. That was
Go
pretty
check
funny.
that out. We'll link it down below. But yes, it was in that video. Chris kind of loses his mind having fun with the elf.
Oh, well, the elf or my coworker kept on finding nipper bottles for the elf, and elves are jolly enough. I don't know if they really need any nippers, but it was cold by the
You got a little
river.
tipsy.
Yes.
So he got a little
Warm the
tipsy.
core.
So you notice his voice starting to get a little quirky and change a little bit. So we had a little fun with the elf on the shelf there. So.
And to be clear, the nippers don't come from us. That's just part of the roadside flora of the state of Connecticut.
Yes.
Yeah.
Our site was like right behind a liquor store also. So there's messy people that just throw their stuff everywhere.
Yeah. All right, Chris, tell us about your skis.
All right, so
here.
this is one of my favorite pair of skis. It's still thin and long enough to get a nice glide going, but they got a full metal edge on it, which is great. So if you get any downhills, you can attack them a little better. No wax base on it. I usually put a glide wax on it, so you get a nice fast little glide going. But this is kind of like an all-around ski. You can just go anywhere with these. They're so much fun. Mm-hmm. You can go up hills, down hills. It's just so much fun.
Yeah. So, Chris, how long have you been cross-country skiing? Because it's a hobby we've associated with you for quite a while now.
Yeah, I probably started on the sledding hill when I was like 10, maybe even a little before that, where my father would pick up an old pair of downhill skis, and I would just bomb down the sledding hill. And then I realized they were just the ones that had the cable that goes around your heel, so you could move your heel. Mm-hmm. So then from there, I just kind of went off the sledding hill and took off into the woods. Didn't really know much about cross-country skiing. I remember kind of seeing it on the Olympics and all that. But once I got off into the woods, I just fell in love with it. Just exploring, could move around in a snowy world.
Yeah.
Great exercise. And that's the thing. In March is when I'm in the best shape because you're coming off of the working physical is our job, but also skiing a lot on the weekends. So I'm usually coming out of the wintertime in the best shape. Then from there, I just get all lazy through the hot weather.
Yeah. So cross-country skiing is something that is notoriously a drudgery and misery for most people that try it. Why do you think it is that you enjoy it so much?
I think it's because I do like to move. That's when I'm the happiest, is when I'm moving physically and mentally, And I think back in middle school, I played all sorts of sports, but back in late middle school into high school, I ran cross country. So it's kind of like a snowy cross country, right? You're still moving, you're running, but you're gliding on snow now. Like I said, in a magical world, right, Keith?
Yeah.
Magical snowy world.
Out there by yourself, it's all serenity, all quiet.
Oh,
by
it's
yourself.
wonderful. Yes.
Wildlife.
Anyone's welcome to come along. Bubba, you can come next time.
Cameraman Bubba is always welcome. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for taking time out from your schedules today. I know you're always busy to come in here, talk to everybody out there, and share your cold weather war stories with us. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us as well. If you are watching us, make sure to like and subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. If you are still listening to us, make sure to check us out on YouTube as well. But leave a 5-star rating if you are on Apple or whatever it is on Spotify. I don't really use Spotify, so I don't know as well. But it's been great having you here. Thanks so much. Stay safe, everybody, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Stay warm.
See ya.
Bye.
Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow.